grandbaby this weekend, so I'm making a chicken pot pie to take over to them. Let me show you how we cook the vegetables, put the sauce together, and then assemble the whole pie. Okay, all I've done in the saucepan here is saute a small diced onion in a bit of olive oil. Then I'm going to add 4 cups of a combination of diced potatoes and carrots. Before I throw those in there, let me just show you a quick tip for how to get your potato into dice. What you want to do is make anything that you're chopping on the board flat. So we just slice off a section of it, and then we can lay it flat. When we do that, it's going to stay a lot more stable for us. Cut it into slices this way. I'm making about 3 cuts onto this potato. Then I'm going to take one of those slices off and lay the rest of them again flat. I'll cut that section in half this way, turn them, and then as I cut my knife down this way, I have good small diced potatoes. This last section that I took off, again, I'm just going to cut it in half this way and go along that to make a small dice. You'll take all of those pieces, put those in your saucepan. Again, we've got about 2 cups of chopped carrots and 2 cups of chopped potatoes that we're adding into the onions. To this, I'm going to add enough chicken broth to just cover the vegetables. This is some chicken broth that I made earlier and I had in the freezer. If you don't have that, just use some store-bought low-sodium chicken stock. And if you do that, you might want to add a bouillon cube. I'm going to add about half of a stock cube just for seasoning and extra salt in here. We're going to bring this to a boil, and then we're going to cover that and let it simmer till the vegetables get tender. It takes about 15 to 20 minutes. Okay, it's been about 15 minutes that the vegetables are cooking, and so let's check them and see if they're soft and ready to continue. Take the lid off, and really all you need to do is just lift a few up with a spoon and get a fork and just see if they're fork tender. Check the potatoes and the carrots because sometimes they cook at different rates. These are, and so we're ready to continue with those. What we'll have to do is drain these vegetables and lift the liquid off of them. So take a slotted spoon, and I've got a colander set over a large 8-cup measuring cup. I want to get as many vegetables out of here with the spoon as I can, and then I'm just going to pour the rest out so I can catch this liquid that the vegetables have been cooking in. That's about all I can get with my spoon. So now just take this off and pour the rest of the vegetables through the colander so that you're catching the stock that you cooked those in. Cooking the vegetables in the stock gives the vegetables extra flavor and gives your sauce extra flavor because that's what you're going to use to make your sauce with, and that's what we'll do next. Set those aside to cool. Now, in the saucepan, over a medium heat, you need to melt a 1/4 of a cup of butter. You can use olive oil if you'd prefer. I like the richness that the butter gives. Once the butter is melted, we're going to add a 1/4 of a cup of flour. You need to stir that in, and we don't need this to brown, but we just need to cook it for about a minute or 2. If you don't do that, you're going to have a raw tasting flour. While that's cooking, you can go ahead and add some seasoning. Just about a 1/2 teaspoon of salt right now, and just a tiny bit of pepper, maybe a 1/4 teaspoon. We'll taste it in the end to make sure our seasoning is correct. Keep stirring that so that your roux doesn't burn and doesn't get brown. Once the flour has cooked for about a minute and you've got the raw taste cooked out of the flour, you're going to add back in this stock that you cooked the vegetables in. Add it slowly and stir it while you do. What I've left with here is about 2 cups of liquid. Now you just continue stirring this over a medium to low heat until it thickens. And at this point, you want to add a little bit of seasoning. I like to add a bit of sage or poultry seasoning. It just kind of bumps up the flavor since we are making a chicken flavored dish. And I don't think this is going to be enough liquid, just the 2 cups. So I'm going to add another pinch of my stock cube and a tiny bit of hot water because I think I'm going to need a little bit more liquid for this. Now you'll notice while I was waiting for the butter to melt, I've divided the vegetables into some little casserole dishes. These are just little oven-proof casseroles. You can cook this in one big dish, which is what I normally do, but since I have to have some for us and some for the new parents, I'm just dividing it up this way so we can take half of it to them and save half of it for us. This also makes kind of a nice luncheon meal if you wanted to do it like that in the individual dishes. If you want to have a tiny thing, you can even do this up in little mason jars. Just added my hot water just to get the consistency of the gravy that I need. And you can see it's kind of a medium thick gravy. And really, all I need to do at this point is just taste that and see if I've got the flavor that I need. Okay. Check this for seasoning. Needing it to be a little bit stronger, a little bit saltier than you want it to be, just a tad. Because once you add your vegetables to this and your chicken, the stock is going to need to have a lot of flavor. This is about right, except it's tiny bit undersalted, so I'm just going to add a pinch of that. It's thickened nicely, and so we're going to go ahead and turn that off and assemble the pies. Now what we've done here again is just divided the vegetable mixture between the casserole dishes, and now I've got about 2 cups of cooked chicken. Well, this is actually turkey that I had in the freezer from when I cooked a turkey breast. If you don't want to cook a chicken on the day you do it, then just go to the store, get a rotisserie chicken, and pull some of that off of there. Works really well. We just top the vegetables evenly with the meat. Frankly, you could do this with beef, even hamburger meat, if that's what you had. But since chicken is our favorite, that's what we're doing. Now from here, all you need to do is cover your vegetables and meat with the sauce. One of the easiest ways to do this, since we are doing it in individual dishes, is just to pour this off in a measuring pitcher. If I was doing it in a large, like a 2-quart casserole dish, I would just pour that all over the vegetable and meat mixture. Okay? You see I'm just kind of covering each one. Okay? If you didn't want to make your own sauce like this, I suppose you could use something like a cream of chicken soup. But frankly, I don't like to use canned soup for things, and I lived in Africa long enough where I never had any of those kind of canned things that I learned it's just as easy to make your own. A little bit of oil or butter, flour, and some chicken stock, and you've got what basically is a cream of chicken, only it's homemade without the artificial ingredients or flavors. Okay, now we need to just let this cool, and then I'll show you how we top it off, bake it, and get that in the oven. Now that our assembled pies have cooled, we can go ahead and put the pastry on top. I would normally use a pie crust, but I'm in a bit of a hurry this weekend, so I'm using a frozen puff pastry. It makes a really nice, tender, flaky crust, and it's a good alternative to homemade. All you do is lay out your chilled puff pastry, and since I've got 4 casserole dishes here, I'm just going to cut this into quarters, right down the middle this way, and again down the middle this way. You'll notice I've got my casserole dishes on a baking tray. That's just so that I can get them into the oven easily, and also so that if they bubble over at all, it's not going to spill in the bottom of my oven. You can see this fits really nicely. Just pop those on top of your meat and vegetable mixture. Remember, you've also got the gravy in there. Okay, we place those directly on top of the vegetables. Just put that down. And now you want to just cut a couple of slashes in each of these just to let that steam escape. If you had made some of them differently, this is where you could mark them. For instance, if somebody in your family likes frozen peas in there, you could mark theirs differently. Maybe somebody likes mushrooms in theirs, you could mark that one differently. That gives you the ability to make individually customized chicken pies. Okay, now for the final touch, we're just going to take a little bit of egg wash and brush that on the top of our pastry. This makes it extra flaky and nice and crispy. It also gives it a pretty brown finish. The only thing I have in my egg wash here is one beaten egg. I've used a whole egg, and then just a little bit of water to thin it out. Just lightly brush that on the top of these, and then these are going to go into a preheated 400-degree oven for about 20 minutes. All we need to do at this point is just get the top pastry nice, brown, and evenly cooked, because you remember, all our other things are fully cooked. The vegetables, the meat, and the gravy are all fully cooked. Okay, I'm going to put these into my preheated oven, and I'll show you what they look like when they come out. Okay, the timer's going off. Let's check our pies and see how they look. Wow, these are perfectly done. Let me bring them over here to the cooling rack so you can see. Okay, we've got nice brown crust, and all the juices are good and bubbly, so we know they're hot. These are going to be ready to go, and we'll take these over to the new mom and dad, and hopefully they'll enjoy a nice hot meal that they didn't have to prepare, since they're pretty tired from keeping the new baby. Hope you'll enjoy this recipe when you make it for your family.